Shalom and welcome to Tov, the Jewish News Channel. And with us today is Brigadier General in the Reserves, Amir Avivi, the founder and chairman of the IDSF, Israel's Defense and Security Forum, known in Hebrew as the Bitchonistim. But before that, let's watch a small promo from our new series on Hamas, Hamas in Your Backyard.
The crusades of the thousands of years ago are depicted as a Western invasion of the Middle East in order to destroy Islam. The same thing is Israel. Both Christianity and Judaism conspired in order to defeat Islam by creating something like resurrection. And this is what boggles the mind.
Shalom and welcome to Brigadier General in the Reserves, Amir Avivi. I'd like to talk to you today a little bit about what's happening among the soldiers in the ranks of the IDF in Gaza and those waiting in the staging areas to go in now that we have a ceasefire. Is it having a negative impact on the morale of the soldiers?
Well, I think that it's obvious that the morale is much higher when the army is proactive and attacking and achieving its missions. It's very hard for soldiers to sit down and wait, especially not knowing the time frame and when they will be ordered to continue the attack. And many of them are also worried and they don't completely trust the leadership to really actually continue. And this is something that should worry all of us, especially when we're talking about a war that is really, in many ways, an existential war.
It's a war for our existence, a war for our life and death. And they're afraid that the leadership will fall back into the same mindset, the same patterns that we saw in the past, the same conception as it is known. Is that right?
Yeah, definitely. You know, we have been seeing this kind of conceptions for more than 30 years now. And although...
More than 50 years.
Yes.
The Yom Kippur War was almost exactly 50 years before this war, and it was the same then.
Yeah, probably didn't change much since then. And it's hard for many citizens and also the soldiers to really be reassured that this time it's different, that this time we're going all the way, that we're going to win decisively. And well, we must say that the government is saying that, the cabinet is saying that the ground incursion will be renewed, and we're going to achieve the goals of war, which is the complete destruction of Hamas and dismantling all the terror infrastructure, and also making sure that this will never happen again, which basically means
it's what's been called to denazify Gaza, like Germany was denazified after World War II.
Definitely, and I think that probably in the coming week or two, we'll see where all this is going. At the end of the day, if we are releasing hostages at the pace of 10 hostages a day, and we're talking about roughly 140 or 141 hostages, it's obvious.
Couldn't that have been done under fire?
Well, the whole idea of why Hamas agreed to release hostages is because they needed a ceasefire. Under fire, and while we are maneuvering, definitely there could be a lot of opportunities to arrive to a place where there are hostages, surround it, and try to negotiate release. We've seen, by the way, one success. We've seen also the soldiers arriving to Shifa and beforehand the terrorists killing hostages and running away.
We know that as a fact.
It's complicated.
We know that. Do we know for a fact that hostages have been killed by Hamas when the IDF approached?
Yes, that's before the IDF arrived, and then we found, we found the bodies, and we knew that they were shot not long before.
Right.
And when they understood that the IDF is taking over the place, so there is a capability, of course, to try and release hostages while maneuvering and arriving to the places where they are. But I think it's reasonable to try to especially take out all the children and women, as many as we can, before we renew the ground incursion in the north and also in the south of Gaza.
So you think this is going to go on for the full 10 days that's been decided on?
I believe so, and I think probably maybe even more, until three things can change this reality. One is Hamas understanding that this is not going anywhere. There is no terrible international pressure. There is no change in the determination of the Israeli society in the army. And therefore, by releasing more and more hostages, is not gaining anything. And at a certain point, they might say, okay, this is not really working. We need to keep hostages to defend ourselves. And they will simply stop giving hostages, and then we'll probably renew again the ground incursion. It can come from the army. The army that at the moment is saying to the government, we can hold our positions, we'll be ready to attack, even if it's in 2 weeks. You, the government of Israel, you can take your time and try to release as many hostages. We are okay, we'll manage. But if the army says at a certain point, no, this is not working for us anymore for different operational reasons, then the government needs to take that in account and not endanger the overall goal of war to destroy Hamas. And it also can come from international pressure, where the government feels that if they continue with this ceasefire, there might be a danger to the overall achievement, which is destroying Hamas, and then they might decide differently.
So yesterday we saw a violation of the ceasefire, right? There were 3 IEDs that were exploded near IDF troops. Thankfully, no one was seriously injured. There were a few slight injuries. Will we be seeing more of these, minor so-called violations of the ceasefire? And what will it take for Israel to say enough?
Well, I think that if we see not just one local event, but if we see more and more events and we see that really the ceasefire is not there anymore, then we'll have to probably take other decisions and understand that the deal is over and we can go back to operating. It's something that evolves. We have to see it on the ground. It's not mathematics. There is no clear answer to when.
If a soldier had been killed yesterday, what if a soldier had been killed yesterday? I mean, it could have just as well happened. Maybe. If a soldier had been killed, or 2 soldiers, would that have been the end of the ceasefire, or would Israel have just said, well, let's not rock the boat?
We don't know. It's not mathematics. We don't know, because on the other hand, we have hostages we want to free, and we see, by the way, how meaningful this is and how important this is, and the responsibility the state of Israel has to do everything it can to bring the hostages while still keeping the other goal, which is the destruction of Hamas. To destroy Hamas, this will take many months, and then to clean up the Gaza Strip can take more than a year, maybe much more. And we have a certain window, very short, of days, maybe a week or 2, to try to release as many hostages, and we have a lot of time to destroy Hamas. And within these 2 goals, we need to find the balance. It's not easy.
That's putting it mildly.
It's complicated.
Very difficult.
Each decision you make has repercussions, but this is what's going on.
It's an extremely cynical move on the part of Sinwar. He's extremely clever, an evil genius of some kind. As we know, they said he's an expert in Israeli society, that he reads Israeli newspapers and consumes Israeli media obsessively, it has been said, and he watches everything, all the television discussions. There's so much talk about this on television, too much, in my opinion. And he sees, and we agree, that human life is the most important value for us, much more than in Muslim society. That's obvious. Hamas is a death cult. So we're actually playing chess while they are playing checkers. Different game, kind of.
If Hamas will be eradicated, it will turn out that Sinwar is the biggest idiot in this globe.
I don't know.
Depends what happens. I mean, there are two ways to go.
But he has given them a taste of blood.
If he stays alive, and if his organization continues to control Gaza Strip, everything he assessed will be right. He thought that he can conduct such an attack on Israel, and because in his eyes, because he watches Israeli TV, the Israeli society was falling apart, the army was falling apart, everything is falling apart. So he thought that he can attack us like that and will retaliate, sure, but it will stay standing like in all other operations, and we won't be resolute, and the war will stop us, and operationally we won't be able to function. So if this really will happen, and for example, the government will say we are willing to receive all the hostages and stop the war, he's a genius.
Yeah.
And
we're idiots.
If we are going to renew the war, and we are going to eradicate Hamas, he's a very big idiot. And I think that the problem with him, with Nasrallah, with the Iranians, they watch too much Israeli TV. They actually think that this is reality.
Yeah,
TV,
they said that Sinwar,
more than the Israeli TV.
They said Sinwar had a subscription to Haaretz when he was in our prison, and he read it every day from cover to cover. And I said, if he reads Haaretz, he does not know Israeli society, because Haaretz does not represent Israeli society. It's a very, very small part. And I think he miscalculated. He did not expect to see the kind of response and unity that awakened in Israeli society when this war started.
It's exactly the miscalculation Hezbollah did in 2006.
Yeah.
So we see again and again that Arab leaders, they really trust the media in Israel to reflect what the society thinks. And we know that there is not a lot of connection between the media and the society. And this is why they are doing these mistakes again and again. And I hope that we'll be able to talk in a few months and say the guy got it completely wrong. And see our reality been eradicated.
Well, we all pray that that is exactly what will happen. And, it's very interesting that your comment about the media, that they watch the media too much. It's really what we've been saying all along, that Israeli media, the regular media channels, do not reflect what people in Israeli society really think. That's why they get the polls wrong. That's why they're unable to predict what the election results will be, because they don't really understand Israeli society either. They come from a certain place in Tel Aviv, a certain area, a certain milieu, and that's what they see, and they don't really get it.
Yeah, definitely. I agree.
Okay. Thank you very much, Brigadier General Amir Avivi, the founder of the IDSF, Israel's Security Forum. And thank you to our viewers. I'd like to remind everyone, don't forget to subscribe to all our channels: Facebook, Telegram, Instagram, Twitter, and of course, YouTube. Shalom.